Yo, what is good guys? Your boy IzuKage here with part 2 of what if Deku had Garous abilities. So quickly, some of you were asking how I did on the test and I think I did pretty good. I would say definitely 90 and above. And also, now that I'm on summer break, you guys know I'm going to be doing daily uploads, 2-3 series a week. And we're getting close to 20k, so if you haven't already, subbed, what are you doing? You're gonna miss all of this content. But with that all out of the way, let's get right into the what if. Talk to me next. Look, dirty, bird, big body Benz, I got you. Scope on the creek, get in like a Mac. I can't fuck with these hoes, these bitches is true. I'm ready to do this, got niggas attack. So where we last left off, Izuku was just about to start the practical portions of the exams. So as President Mike announces everyone to go, Izuku runs out and surprising everyone around him, they thought he had some sort of speed quirk. And Ida, he was running and looked back and see Izuku over his shoulder and thought, whoa, he's pretty fast. So Izuku turns down one of the alleys and is met by two 2-point robots. So he's thinking of the best way he could approach this because they're made of metal, he can't just punch right through them. So the robots lock onto him and they start rushing towards Izuku while he jumps around like on the buildings and manages to land on one. So Izuku is on the robot's shoulders and he sees a piece of metal he could rip out of its framework. So he does to sort of use it as a weapon, and the second robot comes and tries to hit him off, but Izuku dodges, but the punch it threw destroyed the robot he was on, so hey, works for me. So Izuku jumps on the arm that tried to hit him and he runs up the robot and has the sheet of metal behind him and throws it into its head, killing that as well. So they both crash to the ground. And Izuku goes around starting ripping robots apart using his pure strength, getting into their internal components, and even when he did get hit by a robot, it barely affected him due to his just pain tolerance training and his superhuman durability. So after Izuku took down his final robot, the time runs up for the entrance exams. And while Izuku is heading back, he hears a group of people screaming. So he rushes over to see what's the commotion about, and when he gets there, he sees a group of students running past, and they try warning him that it's coming. And Izuku is thinking, no, they're overreacting or something. So it starts walking to where the sounds are coming from, because it's like huge footsteps or something. So he goes around a corner and sees that Uraraka is trapped under some rubble, and the massive 0-pointer is coming towards her, and she's screaming for help. So Izuku rushes over and starts using all of his strength to lift the piece of building off of her, and a brief struggle later he manages to get it off. Then the 0-pointer starts doing something odd. The chest of it opened, revealing its power core, and you could hear a sound of it charging up. From the observation room, Nezu and the other teachers were pressing buttons, panicking, trying to shut it down, and All Might asked, "What is it doing?" And Nezu said, I don't know, it seems like it has a mind of its own." So back with Izuku, he quickly hoists Uraraka into his hands and starts running. The 0-pointer started to glow and a massive beam shot out of its chest. Izuku chucked Uraraka to the side and it hit him dead on, and Izuku was shot back into the building from the plasma cannon and died. Uraraka screamed in fear and used all her strength to crawl away, and All Might and a few other hero teachers jumped into the mock city to stop the rogue robot. They all stood in front of the building Izuku was launched into, and they took their fighting stances to go up against the robot, but before they rushed towards it, from the fallen debris in a building, a hand came out, then another, and Izuku started to lift himself out, but Izuku wasn't looking like himself. Due to being put in a near-death state, Izuku started to unlock his true potential, something a quirk could never beat, breaking his limiter. Izuku rose from the rubble, and with darkness shrouding his body, similar to the image in the thumbnail, Izuku dashed at the robot, jumping, mimicking the scene from the cannon, and he jumped up and punched the robot right in its face, sending it falling back into buildings. And everyone was watching. The heroes, the students, and people from the observation room were stunned. by this unknown power Izuku just had all of a sudden. Izuku landed on the ground and the heroes tried going up to him to ask like what was that, but Izuku wasn't talking and began walking out, blood dripping from his arm. So Izuku stopped at Uraraka and held out his hand, and at first she was scared, but held his hand and he picked her up and started to walk to the exit. So he brought her to one of Recovery Girl's robots and he starts to head home, and while he's walking out of the building, all these people are giving him strange looks, but Izuku just want to get home. So when he does make it, as soon as he shuts the door, he collapses on the ground, and Inko, who was cooking, was frightened and quickly brought Izuku to the couch where she started applying all sorts of medicines to aid in his recovery. So she left him there to rest, and a couple hours later Izuku wakes up. And seeing this, Inko was expectedly, happy to see her son that was okay, but then she started berating him, saying he almost gave her a heart attack and he should be more careful, things like that, and Izuku just scratched the back of his head and apologizes. So the next few weeks, Izuku spends doing light training. He doesn't want to, be lazy and kick about waiting for UA to send him his letter. But finally, after 3 weeks of waiting, he gets it. And Inko is excited. She runs into his room and says, it's here. And Izuku is saying, he just woke up. He's like, what now? So Inko, knowing how little Izuku would care, she opens the letter for him, and from it, she took out a disc. She places it on the table and a hologram of All Might appeared. He explains how well Izuku did on the exam, saying he almost beat his record of 300 by getting 280 points. And it ends off saying, welcome to your hero academia. Inko was more excited than Izuku, and she proposed they had a fun night out. So reluctantly, Izuku is dragged around to a restaurant and a place to play arcade games, which Inko is actually a huge fan of. So another week passes and it's time for Izuku's first day at UA. So when Izuku gets to school, he actually has no problem finding the class since he read the handbook with the different location of classes in there. So when he walks in, everyone starts growing quiet because those who were in the same test area as he was in the entrance exams were starting not to get scared but worried. Bakugo was confused why everyone was acting so weird, then saw Izuku walk past him to go to a seat next to the window. And Ida came up to Izuku and started asking him about his quirk and how he was able to one-punch the zero-pointer. Bakugo is sitting down and hears this, and he's thinking how much stronger did he get over the break, and grits his teeth in anger and frustration. Soon Uraraka comes to class and goes to Izuku just after seeing him to thank him for saving her. She honestly can't thank him enough. So they start getting a bit noisy, and that's when Aizawa came up from his sleeping bag, saying he's their teacher and they should shut up before he expels them. Some students were going to object, but they just made it into UA and they're not trying to test their luck. So Aizawa goes on to tell them to put on their PE gear and meet him out at the field. So they do that, and once they get there, Aizawa asks Izuku to come up and throw the ball to demonstrate since he got the most points in the entrance exam. And Bakugo is like, most points? And at this point he's just livid. Bro is so mad. Like, he trained so much to beat Izuku, and it's like Izuku just went miles ahead of him. So he clenched his fist, like he's almost seeing red at this point. So Izuku goes up to the this circle on the ground, and Aizawa hands him the ball. And he just tells him to throw it using his quirk, and Izuku does and gets a respectable 450 meters. And while throwing it, Aizawa tried disabling his quirk, but nothing happened. He didn't sense him turning anything off. Maybe he has a mutant quirk of some kind, because there's no way he's quirkless, right? So they go on to do the other tests, and Izuku does above average, landing him in second place behind Todoroki. So after everything's said and done, Aizawa sends them back to class. And while changing, Ojiro is always trying to avoid eye contact with Izuku and keeping his distance. And Izuku sees this and intentionally comes closer to Ojiro, just to annoy him really. Like Izuku has nothing better to do. So Izuku gets a good laugh out of it while Ojiro is over there sweating bullets and getting scared. So nothing much happens that day, so on to the next. In class, while Izuku is just looking out of the window, All Might busts through the door and says, "I am here." And everyone is excited, like, All Might's like, he's actually teaching a class at UA, so they were really excited to see him. But All Might manages to quiet everyone down and says, "Aizawa has left you all a test." And everyone's mood immediately changes, hearing the word test. So he instructs them to get their hero outfits and to meet him at Mach City A. So, for his hero suit, Izuku didn't have anything fancy, just dojo attire he would wear when he was training with Shifu. So Uraraka came out and she went to Izuku and asked him like how her outfit looked. And let's just say her outfit wasn't hiding anything. So Izuku went a bit red but controlled himself and said it looked good. Now in the observation room, All Might started picking teams at random, and Uraraka and Izuku get paired up against Bakugo and Ida. So All Might goes into more clarification about the rules of how to win, and just overall have a fun time, don't take it too seriously. So Bakugo and Ida go into the building to prepare their strategy, while Izuku and Uraraka do the same but outside. He tells her just to leave everything to him, and Uraraka insisted, but he was already going towards the building, so he rushed in and started going up the stairs while Uraraka followed behind trying to keep up, but that wasn't happening. So while walking through one of the corridors, Izuku heard something coming from the wall. So he put his ears against it and at the last moment realized it was Bakugo's quirk and jumped back before the wall explodes. Bakugo comes out angry and he runs at Izuku, who dodges all of his attacks, and Izuku counters with his martial arts expertise, flipping Bakugo off balance and standing over him. Bakugo's face tightened in anger and says, "I'm tired of being beneath you." And he uses his explosions to rotate himself, swiping Izuku's feet and getting onto his own feet. So Bakugo shouted as he pulled the pin on his gauntlet and said, "Die!" But from behind him, Uraraka jumps out and touches him, making him float into the air. The explosion still went off, but the shot missed Izuku, but the damage was still significant. Izuku coughed as the smoke cleared and Bakugo was still floating and Uraraka took cover. So he quickly ran over to her and said, "Let's go," leaving Bakugo to float. So they make it to the room with the bomb and Izuku just kicks the door down without thinking. And Ida, still playing the villain character, said, "So you decided to come at me head on? That will be your mistake." And he dashed to Izuku and grabbed him, but it was like he disappeared out of his arms. Izuku was actually behind Ida. That was only an after image, and Izuku ran to the bomb, touching it and winning it for the hero team. Izuku yawned, saying how boring this all was, so he decided to just get it over with and find someone else stronger to fight. Back in the observation room, All Might had everyone comment on the round, but Momo had the most to say, saying, "I think Izuku was the MVP. He tried taking down the threat quickly, and even though he was reckless at times, I think that's just due to all of us being hero students." And All Might couldn't have said it better himself and sent everyone back to class. Once they got changed, they were walking by class 1B and all the students were giving them disgusted looks. But everyone in class 1A knew they was just jealous of their class's prestige and just walked past without giving them their time of day. Apart from that, outside of classes, a few friendships started to form, like the whole group of class 1A girls, Momo, Froppy, Jiro, you know the rest. They started getting to know each other more and more. At lunch that day, Izuku sat by himself, but Uraraka and Ida and Kirishima plopped down next to him, and he asked them why they were sitting next to him, and Uraraka answered, because they wanted to, and started chowing down on their lunch. And also I should mention the lunch at UA, it's 5-star restaurant level. They got Gordon Ramsay back there calling people idiot sandwiches, but hey, At least the steak is cooked to perfection. On a real note though, the four started talking about their lives, mainly Kirishima, Ida, and Uraraka. Izuku just kept to himself. But while talking, the sirens began blaring and panic ensued. People rushed the emergency exit, but it was blocked by the hundreds of students trying to get through. But Izuku remained calm, and he looked outside the window and saw a few reporters inside the school and thought that may have been the cause of the sirens going off. So he showed Ida, and Ida takes care of it just like Canon, asking Uraraka to float him up, and he gets, above everyone to announce them to just look outside, like they're not in any danger. Plus, they got All Might and all these other insane heroes on campus, so I'm pretty sure anyone in their right minds would not attack the school. But to Izuku, something didn't feel right. A group of weak, quirked reporters breaking through UA security just didn't seem possible to him, and Izuku wasn't the only one thinking this, because Nezu was going back to his office and saw it completely trashed, with files all over the ground and things knocked over. Now he has to be on high alert for the future of UA because people have gained teacher and student information. So, the next day rolls around, and in class, Aizawa tells the students about the USJ. And of course, at first they thought, Universal Studios of Japan, but he quickly corrected them, saying it stands for Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Honestly, to me, that name sounds so trash. I feel like it's just a joint in the name. Come on, you could have thought of something way better. Anyways, everyone is actually excited. They start to do actual hero training, and they'd be saving people. So come the next day, and with all the students' parents' permissions, they're on their way to the USJ. On the bus ride there, all the students start getting along, and the girls start bringing up who they think has the best quirk. And they're debating, saying Bakugo has the most flashy, but Todoroki's is really cool, and they're starting to realize they don't really know what Izuku's quirk is. He seems really strong, and people who were in the mock city with him vouched that he was extremely strong. He took down a 0-pointer with a punch. And hearing this, some of the girls were impressed, and the guys were also impressed. Like, Izuku didn't really seem all that strong, or at least he did seem strong, but not enough to one-punch a 0-pointer. You would expect someone with a build like All Might to be able to do that. So the girls start going off, trying to rank each other, but eventually they reach the USJ. And Ida, being the class representative, he gets everyone off the bus in a proper manner, and they line up to go into the USJ. Once they enter the building, they are met with the Space Hero 13, and he goes over how their quirk can be used to kill if they don't train it enough, because you could be saving someone but end up killing them. It's a really serious matter. And while the speech is taking place, Uraraka is secretly fangirling over 13. She's our favorite hero, similar to Canon Deku with All Might. And once 13's speech is over, they start heading down the staircase to start their hero training. And while halfway down the staircase, the group starts to sense something bad, like something bad is going to happen. That feeling you would get. And once they did, they saw a bunch of purple portals started appearing all around the place, and from it, villains ready to attack. Seeing this, Aizawa immediately told 13 to take the kids back to UA, but once she took the kids to the top of the staircase, a massive portal blocked their way. While some students were panicking and scared, Izuku was smiling. He was happy. Finally, he can let loose and take care of some lowlifes in the process. But we'll have to see how he deals with them in the next part, because that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, like. And if you like my content in general, subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.